Hey, it's me, Rob Ryan. I am back with another new episode of Entrepreneurial Thinkers to share with you. I just got to have an incredibly personal conversation with a young woman that I have had the good fortune to know in Mexico since she was probably about maybe 19 years old, maybe 20. We've known each other for quite a long time, and to now talk to her in her late 20s in the midst of an incredible professional and life transition that she's going through was a gift. So you're going to get the full Tio Rob, Uncle Rob vibe in today's conversation with Olivia Leal. Olivia is her full name. I refer to her as Olivia because that's what I referred to her when I met her back in like 2016 in Monterrey at the Universidad Tec de Monterrey as part of a huge program, an event that I was a speaker at. And we talked about her experiences as a two-time CEO, as a young woman CEO inside of machismo-dominated Mexican Latin culture. We talked about her perspective on being a young female CEO inside of two very traditional old school industries, both healthcare and then shipping and logistics with the company that she has most recently run. And then we, in some way or form or fashion, essentially break some news in sharing her first conversation in which she openly talks about the fact that she has recently resigned her role as CEO of the company Ni Envio in Mexico, the shipping and logistics early stage startup company. And we really dive into a lot of the personal trauma and journey and healing that comes from trying to ask yourself at any age those types of deep questions about what are your intentions, what are your purpose, how do you want to design a life that suits you, not just a career that becomes your life. And it was just a really empowering, incredible, warm, love-filled conversation that I'm really, really grateful to share with you. And I hope that you enjoy it as much as she and I did making it for you.
We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jer Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan.
Hola, hello, hi, bienvenido, and welcome back, or welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And as you know, this is the show where I get to have weekly conversations with some of the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry as we come together, as my mom used to say, to try to leave the world a little bit better than we found it. And today, I'm uniquely excited to have Olivia Leal, recently former CEO of Me and Vio, and much more importantly to me, my great friend and former mentee, to join us on the show. I'm like proud Tio Rob moment today to be in this conversation with this old friend of mine who we first met, I think, back in like 2016 or 2017, which is insane. So we're going to dive into a whole bunch of stuff about her background, about her professional experiences, about the industry that is we're going to talk a little bit about here in the context of kind of the current markets in North America. We're going to dive into so much of it. First, before we do that though, let me tell you a little bit about her. So today, we're going to explore what it means to lead as a young woman in a macho-dominated culture in Mexico, how it is to innovate in the world of traditional industry, and what it is to build a career while building a company. So we're going to talk about spearheading branding projects, growing to achieve certifications to redefine operational strategies, global expansion. I mean, her career is rooted in growth and innovation. And in parallel, we're also going to dive into her own journey, which has been really rooted in self-discovery, self-belief, and leadership. Whether she's leading a team of 250 volunteers or navigating the complexities of cross-border logistics, Olivia brings a rare mix of sharp operational insight and a very human-centered approach to every challenge she faces. As a proud Borrego, a graduate of Tec de Monterrey in her home of Mexico, Olivia built her early career experiences within a variety of organizations in the Monterrey area, including Inc. Monterrey and OSIS or OSIS. She's always bringing organizations to new levels of opportunity. We met through her work at Inc. Monterrey way back in the day. Her journey spans from healthcare management to influencer marketing strategies and even organizing entrepreneurial festivals with 10,000 or more participants. Having known her since her university days, I can say that her experience far outweighs her relative youth and that she offers a really admirable example of what's possible for young Mexicana leaders to aspire to in their own lives and careers, which, by the way, are not always easy, not always linear, not always up and to the right without interruption. Like, life is a journey, entrepreneurial life is a journey, leadership life is a journey, and it's a journey that kind of goes like this, right? So we're here to talk about all of that with Oli. Oli, it's awesome to share this conversation with you today.
Hi.
How are you, my friend?
Very good. Fascinated hearing you and all the intro. It's like,
you were taking notes about your own bio. You're like, wow, this is me. Like,
like, okay, that's an interesting point of view. Like,
right? I love that. We were talking off air before the show started. It has probably been six or 7 years since we've seen each other in person, like 2018, 2017, 2018.
7 years.
Yeah, right. So
7 years. 2017, that was the last year that I actively participated, and I was your ambassador and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
That was in 2017, a long time ago.
So, and then we have so many common friends, and in your small circle of friends back then from university days, we had like a super group of close people that were always connected to us. So this is really special. I joked, audience, you'll laugh at this. I joked with her beforehand. I said, if we were meeting in person in Monterrey right now, we'd be having a long lunch and not a public podcast.
Late afternoon coffee, maybe early dinner.
Without the video, without the microphones, we would just be having a great conversation. But instead, we're going to share some of our relationship and some of Oli's journey here publicly today. And so there's a lot to talk about. I did frame it in the intro, right? We're going to touch some about the industry that you have an immense experience in now recently. We're going to talk a little bit about your experience as a leader. We're going to dive into a lot of your own story and that journey. And not to make it all about this, but it is a uniquely important story to tell, to talk about young women leaders in Mexico. And for those that are Mexican that are listening to this, or Latinos from anywhere across the region, they understand what that means, why we say it's really important conversation to have. And so we're going to do that. So I'm going to give you kind of a wide open question to start, right? What's it like, or what has it been like to have grown to become one of the youngest women CEOs in Mexico? A couple times now, two different times.
Twice. Really satisfying. It has been tough. It has been a challenge, but at the end, I think it's really gratifying. Like to have the opportunity to lead a company through better or worse, and to form teams and to get to know people and make a change. Because I like, one of the things that has been really important for me leading companies and in general in my work life, it's to work with intention. Like, not only work to aspire for an economical growth or a personal growth. It's how can I, through this organization, impact our surrounding, no? First, the people in it, the people who we give services to, and the ecosystem, if we can. And I've had also the opportunity in both industries, in health and in logistics, to open minds about new ways to give these services with a more ethical and and responsible approach.
Interesting.
So when I go back to that, because right now I'm like in the midst of a big change in my life, I see that and it's like, okay, I think this way of thinking, it's with intention and all that, it's one of the reasons why today I'm here, having led these companies and with these projects that I've had that I think are great.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting the way you describe it. It's funny. You're almost flirting with like describing yourself, maybe having grown to realize that you are, in my words, more of maybe an entrepreneurial thinker than necessarily just an entrepreneur or just an executive.
Yeah. Definitely not an executive. Like, I don't identify with that.
Interesting.
I didn't research on time this, but I do have the question if In Spanish, we have emprendedor, empresario.
Right.
So it's entrepreneur. What would be the word for empresario?
Business person. Right?
Business person.
Yeah.
In English, what is the difference between an entrepreneur and a business person? Like for you, what's the difference?
Historically, it tends to be employed by yourself, right? Or employed by an employer, right? So you're an employee.
Okay.
You're like an employee, or you're self-employed. You're doing your own thing, so to speak.
So a business person is employed?
It's interesting, right? Because
Because I would guess it would be otherwise.
Right. No, that's the nuance, right? And it's this is a great question actually, because in my years of going around Latin America giving speeches about these topics, I always stood out as a little bit different speaker than a lot of the other speakers for a bunch of reasons. But one of those reasons was that I tended to look, and now I'm doing it with this phrase, entrepreneurial thinking, in the podcast.
Okay.
But I tended to always look at the difference between kind of the entrepreneurial thinking corporate executive, which, you know, some people tried for like about a decade. They tried to call those people intrapreneurs, right? Which never really worked as a word, right? And so I always kind of looked at it as like all the way down to here's another one you would say in Spanish, to the pyme.
Pymes.
Right? But pymes are entrepreneurs. And
for me, entrepreneur, it's pymes. Like,
right.
If you ask me about like a unicorn, I wouldn't say entrepreneur. No.
Right. And pyme, for those listening who don't know, that's more like small business. We would say small business person in the US. Right. So there's all these strange stratifications that have happened over the years. Frankly, my opinion is because the people who were creating the newest cool club to be a part of were always trying to separate their little club off from, like, it's cooler than the rest of it. And not to pick on our friends at Tec de Monterrey or Inc. Monterrey, right? But like, that's a perfect example of an organization. Yeah, no, but like they were very intentionally trying to say like, hey, we're a conference for these types of business people. Right. And then there are massive conferences in like with my friends at Tijuana that run these huge women's pyme conferences with thousands of people. And they're like, we're a conference and a community for these types of business people. Right.
Yeah.
And I used to go around the region saying like, you're all entrepreneurs. Yes, you guys are like high tech entrepreneurs, and you're software entrepreneurs, or you're venture capital backed entrepreneurs, you're bank loan backed entrepreneurs, you're self-funded entrepreneurs, you're small. So you've had a kind of range of experiences.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is, which is fascinating to me, is like, you're really defining your lessons that you've learned and your skills that you've displayed as kind of being an entrepreneurial thinker in whatever company you're in, inside of whatever industry it is.
Yeah, that's been my experience until now. And I mentioned this because I've had a hard time feeling secure about not, like for me, entrepreneurial, like entrepreneurs here in Mexico or any entrepreneur, it's someone who has their own company.
Right.
And I'm in the middle because I don't have my own company.
Right.
I do have the entrepreneurial thinking, definitely. And I also do projects on the side that are really big projects, but myself and I as a consultant. So it has been hard because I feel like I don't match in either sides.
Right.
And I think this helps me.
Which I would say to validate
feel the labels.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Haney and Company. You know, we all know that in today's complex financial landscape, having a trusted advisor can make all the difference. Since 1960, Haney and Company has been providing comprehensive accounting services to a diverse range of clients, from small businesses to large corporations. With nearly 400 professionals across 13 locations, they offer services in tax, audit, business consulting, and client advisory. In fact, their commitment to excellence has earned them recognition from Accounting Today and Forbes magazines. At Haney and Company, though, it's not just about balancing books. It's about building lasting relationships based on trust and mutual growth. So visit HaneyCPAs.com. That's HaneyCPAs.com.
to learn how they can support your business's financial journey. Yeah, no, to validate you a little bit, right? And my daughter says this to me a lot now recently, right? So she's 31 years old, and she works in television, film, and I've learned from like just observing and listening to her career path that like, oh, television and film is much more kind of how we would say like freelance and consultative and project based than I ever thought it was. Like I had, as a consumer of television, I always thought like you go to work for some big studio and you have a job and you work for like Apple TV and you have it like, and the truth is that's not how it works at all. Like it's much more freelance, entrepreneurial, like you're working on a show. Yeah. And you work on the show as long as that show lasts. And if that show doesn't last, then you're out of a job and you're in between projects and you're like, right. And so like, as I've learned that, she says a phrase to me that I think applies to you. She says that much more like your generation, like all of you guys say under 35, that you're all basically now building portfolio careers.
Oh, I love that.
That the whole way that old school people, Generation X, thought about our career, which was like, get a job, or even if you change jobs, like stay within a field and raise promotion levels and, you become more senior in the same industry, or occasionally change industries, but be the same job, right? That's the way I thought about it. And she's like, that doesn't exist anymore, Dad. Like now everybody under like 35, we have to say, I want to earn $100,000 this year. I'm going to have my day job over here, which is my primary thing. And then I'm going to have this side project where I'm completely entrepreneurial and it's all on me. And then I'm going to do this freelance consultative work over here. And I'm going to add the income up from these different things into a portfolio of professional experiences that I earn income from. And I was like, oh, okay.
Really interesting. Really
right. And I think that's kind of what I'm hearing with you is you've been leading that portfolio life professionally now for some time and maybe not feeling 100% like accepted in any one of the roles.
That I think that's naturally a side effect of the Mexican culture because it's really macho man dominated, traditional.
See, which we're gonna talk a lot about that. Okay, so but before we get into that, I do have one interesting kind of industry question that I have because I pieced it together as I'm listening to you. You happen to have become a CEO in two like really old school traditional industries, like healthcare, health stuff, and then shipping and logistics. What was it like being the new, fresh entrepreneurial thinker? Did you meet with a lot of resistance? Like, forget the culture, forget Mexican resistance, forget male resistance. Like, just for a second, just industrial resistance. Like, did you run up against people who were more experienced than you, or been in it for their entire lives? Who were like, no, Oli, you can't do that in the healthcare industry in Mexico. Like, that's not how this works. Or you can't do that in the logistics industry in Mexico. And you were like, no. Like, we have to do it this way. We have to think differently. Was that a common experience?
All of the above.
Okay.
Everything you said.
Yeah.
Resistance a lot. Also because I am really curious, like how I got to these places, and then through the time working there, I got to this senior role, to the CEO role. I think it was because I was very curious, and so I asked a lot of questions, and then I'm really intuitive. That before I didn't give enough space to this skill. Like I was like, no,
okay.
like I need to do it. One of the things, and I'm gonna make a little parenthesis, is that a lot of the content and theories and methodologies and things that I learned in my career, that I studied business administration, are written by men in male-dominated companies and industries.
Yeah.
So that was my context in education. So when I graduated, I entered to work in the health industry in a hospital. I started working like more in administrative areas. I got my way up by asking questions and by not settling with the answer they gave me, because this intuition was like something is off here. So more questions. And in the way, it's like my whole time there. Like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Let me explain. Or you're not a doctor, so maybe you don't know how this works. And in health, it's more clear this because it is run by doctors that are typically men.
Sure.
So it is off balance. I think it was the best intro I could have in a full-time job before all else I wanna do.
Yeah.
But yeah, in healthcare was more evident this dynamic.
Okay.
Here at Mienbio, it's a startup. Like it has a startup dynamic work culture
So
vibe.
it by nature was the entrepreneurial thinking disruptive force in the old industry.
In Mienbio, but not outside Mienbio, because we work, like Mienbio works in the logistics industry in Mexico. And by the time that I started working at Mienbio, the company had, this year it turned 10 years. It turned 10 years. When I was there, it had 7 years, and Carlos, my husband, the founder of the company, he had a lot of resistance at the beginning, the first 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So like he did pave the way for me, but yes, when I entered, I wanted to question, but the product, I got in love with the product and the technology. So I was like, why do you have this in the product, or why is in it this way? And like really intuitive, like if this platform, other platform, or other tool works this way, and it's one of the best in the world. And in another industry, like, I don't know, I compared with the iPhone. Like the iPhone, it's made for you to breathe with the cell phone. Like it goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways. Like it's really intuitive. So I told him, like, we need to think and act and see a way how we can interpret this way of wanting to give the service through the technology. So it has to, I always tell them, like, the product needs to breathe. And the product is not breathing, and it's not talking, and it's not responsive. It has to be responsive. So, like, I had resistance from the inside team in the tech team, because
it's a different way. It's a different
engineers,
way and it's a different way to speak
thinking
about a product, right?
Yeah.
And that's an uncommon language that is like new to them. And so there's like, whoa, what is she talking about?
And I mean, logistics is one of the biggest industries in Mexico. It's completely male dominated. And
like completely. Like, did you ever run into like another woman CEO of a logistics company at the big trade shows
I just
or meetings?
know one, and I don't like from name, and I don't know her.
Yeah.
One example was one day I went to a courier hub.
Yeah.
And I was with our account manager, and he told me like, "Oh, I want to introduce you to my chief or two people on top." So he introduced me to that other person. We sat around and, oh, let me bring this person and let me bring this other person. And then they were like, oh, let's meet the CEO of the shipping company. And I was like, lovely. I would like to meet him.
Sure, yeah.
We were 7 people in the room. 6 were men.
Yeah, of course.
And I was the only.
Yeah. That's almost what I expected.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yet, like you said, this isn't some small like startup industry.
No.
I mean, it's logistics and shipping in Mexico. It's
huge.
I'm just going to guess. I can put a number to it. It's like trillions of dollars, like billions and hundreds of billions of dollars.
And it's completely embedded with all the realities in Mexico.
See, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to be careful with that.
No, of course. So, all right. So I have one last kind of industrial question before we get into more personal stuff. So, like, we have a lot of people that listen who are obviously very acutely aware of the kind of chaotic, uncertain reality we live in today because of our politics on the U.S. side of the border, which is not a comfortable place to be, right? In that context, right? So I'm curious, like, just pure like logistics and shipping. I mean, like when we're talking, like when we got a president who's just, tweeting or spewing nonsense about, tariffs and closing borders and stopping trade, all this nonsense bullshit that he does on a daily basis and that his team tries to actually implement, but then fails, right? Like, I mean, that is affecting real life, like goods that are going across like food that is sitting at the border that is spoiling because it's shipping from Michoacan and then it gets stopped at the border because now there's uncertainty about tariffs and like, so we can't ship it. And then if there are, and then like people aren't getting products and equipment and goods and service, like, and people crossing the border is truckers are getting stopped. And like, so just in this last, 3-4 months of this craziness that we're living through, was it something that you guys had to like, oh God, we have to deal with this? Like we have to figure out how our clients and how our business is affected by this?
Yeah. And you said it in the question, this affected a lot of our clients. So if it affects our clients, it affects us. A lot of like, there's the biggest impact in these changes. It ends like the first stop, I think, it's in the income, like Mexican income, middle, low class, that a lot of people have pymes there. Like there's entrepreneurs there. There's people who have like a side job with an e-commerce and all that. Those people are the ones that right now are affected because there's a lower pay disposition. They cannot buy all the stuff that they bought before. So our client sales, they diminished like in 3/4 partes. Like, I don't know how to say it in English.
We got enough listeners that are bilingual.
It diminished in 3/4 partes.
Yeah.
Like
30.
more than a half. More than a half of their sales went down.
Yeah.
Because of these changes. Because people aren't buying. Like that's the harsh reality. You see that. I translate it to me. I see this and I say, before I bought, I don't know, all these clothes and makeup and wanted to try new stuff each week. And right now it's like, I need to be more conscious because I know we are in a complicated situation as a country.
Yeah.
And I think this, like, it affects everyone at the end.
See, and here you are trying to be a business that is helping facilitate the movement of goods.
Yeah.
Right. And all of a sudden, the historically stable neighbor decides that they want to be the crazy, unstable uncle. Right. And everything just grinds to a halt. That's just horrible.
Yeah. And it gets out of control.
No. Yeah. It's horrible. Okay. All right. Perfect segue. That's enough talking about the industry impacts and the politics of it all. I introduced you in the very opening of the show as the recently former CEO of Me and Vio.
Yes.
That implies you have just recently decided to leave Me and Vio. By the time this this episode releases, probably 5 or 6 weeks after we're recording it. Talk to us about that.
Will be out.
So talk to us about that. Like why did you leave?
As we're talking today, we're talking today. I haven't made an official announcement.
Yes, today it's June. It's May. I don't know what the date is today. 12th or 13th or something. Yeah.
It's not official yet, but it's official for me. So. It's an interesting question, and I love to answer it. For years, I dreamt of being a CEO, of having a company or running a company. Like the power I felt of thinking, I'm going to have, like, I am going to do what I want. Because what happened is that before I was CEO in the hospital and before in Mi Envío, I worked as a consultant in different projects. I was in Monterrey. I was in a corporate job. And like, I tried a little bit of everything during my
early career
years.
days.
Yeah, early career. Well, I was studying still. I was a student. But during those days, And most of the times, especially with my consultant projects, I wanted to implement all these ideas that I have. And I saw stuff that I knew was the reason why they had those problems. Like, I don't know, they told me like, I'm not selling. But then I saw that their leadership team was really flawed and they were missing a salesperson and the CEO wasn't present and like all of this stuff. And I was like, but it is obvious why you're in selling, like, because this and this and this, no? So I would do A, B, and C and then nobody is, I don't know the word in English, this one, dispuesto. Let me see, I have here, because it's an important word for me. They are not willing. They are not willing or open to make a change in them and in the C-suite team, that it's most of the times they're the problem, to really have a change on the company. So my thinking was, okay, so if I run the company, I won't have these problems.
Right. You were learning early, very early on, you were learning, like, I trust my intuition. I trust my instincts.
Yeah.
Hey, I think my instincts are pretty good because I'm testing them in these different real life scenarios. And so naturally, like, I'd like to just be the leader. Like, I'd like to be the boss at the top. I know
the
you
boss.
enough,
Yeah.
right. Not to be, I know you enough to know not to be the boss, right? Not to wield power, but to have positive influence. Like, you're like, hey, I think I could lead better than most or average people.
So that was my mindset behind these decisions. And when I had the opportunity to lead both, but I think with a more conscious life and personal work behind now in Mi Envío, I did make a lot of changes that relate to this mindset, like how can we have a team that is completely committed? And I am really proud of the team that I consolidated. How can we have a product that is a really good product, that breathes, that it's intuitive, that the clients love? How can we know how to sell the company and to sell it with conviction and with the meat that it is true? Like we do that, and we can give you that service, and it's intentional, and it's like all those good things. When I did all that, and I did it, I got to the part to really feel what it means to lead a company. Like to have in your shoulders the decision making. It's not
heavy.
an easy thing. Yeah.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Chisos Capital. Everyone knows that raising capital is hard. And frankly, finding the next pool of entrepreneurs to get access to as limited investors is sometimes impossible too. Do you have a big idea, a dream you're building, but you're struggling to find early funding? Well, Chisos is changing the game for founders, creators, athletes, and investors. Whether you're launching a startup, growing your creative brand, or training for the big leagues, Chisos backs you. Chisos uniquely invests up to $100,000 in people, not just products, whether they be entrepreneurs, creators, or even athletes. With their unique CISA model, convertible income share agreements, founders get flexible funding without giving up equity or ownership, and investors get attractive returns and great upside with less risk. Chisos works for both investors and the people bringing our world to life. If you're seeking access to a truly diverse pool of deals, or you're someone who feels overlooked by the VC game, Chisos is ready to back you. So apply now at chisos.io.
You won't remember this because you were always busy running around making sure that my life was easy when we were at the events together.
Yeah.
But I used to say on stages all the time that the CEO can be the most powerful job, right? That people can ever hold, but it also, frankly, is often the most lonely job.
Yeah. Yes, I am of the idea that loneliness is an election.
A choice.
It's a choice.
Okay.
And I chose not to do it alone.
that way.
So
No,
yeah,
that's fair. That's fair.
I think that gave me the tools to know, like, how can I create a job that I love, with a
I
team
love
that I
that.
love. So yeah, that was
I think a little added context for you. I think when I use that phrase, it's more of like a validation of your prior statement around the weight of the decision making.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So the lonely in the sense of like ultimately it not top down, but more like end of a runway. Like at the end of the runway, the decision ultimately sits with that person at the end.
yes,
And those decisions are human and they affect people and they affect lives and they affect all kinds of things. And that is unique because you can't look at even if you have a great team around you helping you lead, like you're like, oh, I can't really talk to you about this because I can talk to you about
yeah.
everything else, but I can't talk to you about this one decision because it's private and it is to do with this other person. And so it's some aspects of the job, not every
Yeah.
time.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
Yeah,
I
some
do get it.
aspects of the job wind up being just very
Lonely.
You have to carry that weight all by yourself, and
Yeah.
that can be a lot of pressure.
That can be a lot. What I loved about, I'm going to talk like two things. What I loved about getting to this role and what I learned in this role at these last months, and then why I quit it. It's a hard word. But what I did learn, it's about that loneliness, that if I learn how to communicate with my core team, I didn't have to take all the decisions by myself. At the end,
Awesome.
it is my responsibility. Like I have the stakeholders. I was the one that I needed to send the reports and like to be accountable of all the company. But I think I learned several tools and ways of how I can be in this role and feel it's a natural part of me. So I can make better decisions. I can work with a team because I did believe that it was too much of a weight for me to do it by myself. So what I did was let me involve my team, and it was really powerful because it empowered my team in ways that I didn't expect that to happen. And we were all happy because
Awesome.
I divided the weight.
Right.
And they were like, okay, like, then I'm going to be more receptive with the clients' conversations. I am going to check all the incidences and bugs and tickets to see if there's any other thing I can do, and like more creativity. So it was good.
No, it's a great leadership lesson, right? I mean,
Yeah.
diffuse some of the responsibility, because what it did for you is it lightens a little bit of the load.
Yeah.
And what it does for the others is it gives them some more load that most leaders wouldn't share with them. So now they're growing and they're like, wow, this is awesome. Like, she's letting me grow. And
Yeah.
you're like, thank you. Your growth is helping me to kind of take off a little. That's a great
tool.
leadership lesson to
Yeah.
learn at a young age. And yet
I decided.
something about the circumstances you decided to leave.
Yeah. I was telling you this before, that it's the only way I can right now put it into words, like, one sentence. But I realized a couple of like 2 months ago, weeks ago, that I've been working my whole life for other people's dreams. Like, and this of wanting to lead the way, the intention behind this mindset, it was a negative one. I wanted to be in control. I wanted to be validated. I wanted to be recognized. I wanted to have the star in the forehead. And I'm not there, like, that's behind me. But I think the decision of getting where I got in mi envío was from this place. So my first instinct was, I need to stop. There's another important thing in all this. For the last 8 years, I've been dealing with a chronic pain.
Okay.
Yeah, for the last 8-9 years. And it's been like, it makes me crazy. Like depression, like ups and downs, weight problems, headaches, inflammation, like a lot of problems because of this. So I've been a lot better. Like a year, I changed, like I understood that it needed to be integral, like change everything. And that the doctors and all the tools that I was using to improve my health needed to be connected together. So I changed that. I'm better now. But this had a mental toll on me big time, and also on the physical part. So some months ago, I was really anxious, really anxious. And I was like, I don't feel well. I don't have the capacity to think clearly. My head hurts. I don't feel well. And mi envío is not in a position where I can just like, it's okay. No, I need to be like, if I'm not okay,
like you said about your team, like all in, like fully committed.
If I'm not okay, the company is not going to be okay, and it needs to be okay. So like, I need to stop. Before I said stop, I talked to my husband that I think in all this, the part that I have an extremely supportive man by my side, it's like, I couldn't have done it and decided all this without his, his support. Iba a decir apoyo.
Sí.
His support.
Yeah, sí.
And he told me like some weeks ago, like, whenever you want to, because by this time he was like a year and a half that I was CEO. He stepped aside and started another project. So he was like, you can do this by yourself. And I was like, yeah. So when I told him like, I'm not feeling well, he was like, whenever you want to stop, I'm here for you. And I can take care of you. I can take back the the business, the leadership role. It's okay. So he stepped up and I stepped down, and I told him like, I need a month off. So right now I'm still in transition. It's been hard because I learned by my education and surroundings that you mentioned it in your last episode. It was mentioned. I don't know if it was your or Goalie, is it called?
Probably Goalie.
Yeah. That the career before, well, and we talk it right now, it was like my dad, he's a doctor, and it's like, I'm committed to this my whole life. And I had two beliefs in my belief system that I am now changing. One is that I needed to do something that was like off the charts, like revolutionize, change the country, and of course, why not the world?
Yep.
And the second one was like, if I am now in technology, I'm committed to technology my whole life. I'm a tech woman. I'm not.
Like Goalie saying, like, I became a lawyer, and like, I'm going to be a lawyer, and I'm just supposed to be a lawyer, right? And then I think she told the story about like her aunt at one of the parties, like 8 years after she had left the law, and she'd been she's like, when are you going back, right? Like,
it's like, shut it. No questions, no opinions. But yeah, so I had those beliefs, and right now, navigating all these beliefs, answering the simple question, what do you do? In Mexico, we don't ask, what do you do for a living? We ask, ¿qué haces? That it's that, like, open question, an example, it's, ¿qué haces? What do you do? It's like, and we normally answer with where we work, or the position we're in, or something along those lines. And this is where like Mexican culture is in this sense, on this question, very, very Americanized. It's very, it's very like, whereas you go to other countries and other cultures, and they don't ask that. They ask you like, how are you? Right? Right. But our North American culture is very so work driven, right? And work identified. Work identified. So in all this, why I decided to quit, I realized my identity was fully formed in base of what I was working, and what I was working wasn't even my dream. It's my husband's dream. So it's like, I don't and what's my dream? So you know me, I think of something and then one day after was like, so then this is not for me.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
it's a good thing. It's really easy for me to,
No,
like
you're very decisive.
Yeah.
Like when you come to a decision, although it may be hard and you may quietly figure it out,
Yeah.
like,
And
but
it
once
took
you
me
come
time to get to
Yeah.
there, but I knew that I had a long way of thoughts and feelings and beliefs and all that. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so this is it. Right now, getting to answer what do you do? What are you going to do? Because the few
By the
people
way, that was my next question, by the way.
I can tell you this. I know that I will build a life, not a job also, but I am going to build a life that I love, doing things that I'm good at and that make an impact, a good impact. It doesn't matter the size. It can be a good impact in my household, in my direct ecosystem, in my city, in my country, in the world. I don't know. But I want to do it from another place, from a place of love, of intention. And that's why recently I'm starting to, I thought if I was going to do a master's degree, because I haven't done one yet. And then I in the same question, I was like, no way. I hate studying. I'm not a scholar person. I learn from experience and I love like getting my hands on it, literally.
Yeah.
So I put myself like the title of a creative master's because I believe that there are a lot of creative activities that give me like energy and ideas to be a better person. And in the way, I have a really good time. So I started, I don't know the word.
You started, so did you apply to
No.
Creative Master's
Like,
program? Or?
My idea, what I'm doing is that I define my study plan. Like,
That's beautiful. That's awesome.
I'm going to learn this new skill. I am going to do this.
Like
I am going to, it's self-made. Self-made.
Yeah, self-determined. Okay,
Yeah,
I love
self-determined creative masters.
And by the way, to go back to the sneaky next question that would have been like, so what's next, right? Couple truths. I wasn't going to pin that question on you because you've already told us that the reality was when you stepped away, like when you made this hard break, the first thing that you said, which I heard you say, you said to your husband, you said to yourself was, I need a month away. I need a break. At least. And so the truth is, the real answer that I hope you progressively become more comfortable with day over day over day is simply saying, I'm taking a break right now, right? And if you need to make that break sound like fancier for other people, say like, I'm on
sabbatical.
A hiatus.
I don't know.
I'm on a sabbatical. I'm on a hiatus. Like I'm taking the rest of 2025 to myself to balance, to take care of my health and focus on to explore what I want to do with my talents next, right? Like there's plenty of fancy ways to say it so that the people who ask will just stop asking and they'll go away. Right. But the only thing that really matters, you already know this because you've exhibited it even just today, like is that conversation that you're having with yourself when you look in the mirror in the bathroom in the morning. Like that's all that matters. And I'll tell you, here's the good news for you is like you are young and so far ahead of the curve in life for having begun to figure this out. Like as myself, as my own, I can only speak to my own life experiences, right? Like I was in my early 40s, like 40, 41, after my parents passed away. And part of that process of my parents passing away and me grieving that and kind of questioning the relationship and understanding it in a different way, like gave me the clarity to understand, wait a minute, like, okay, I want to be like, so the version of me that you met in the mid 2010s, right? Like was the version that I was becoming, which is now the version I am now at 56, almost 57. But but that's a very different version of the person that I was, say, from 20 to 40.
Okay.
Right. And 20 to 40, I was much like you. I was curious. I was driven by aspiration. I was ambitious, but more aspirational. I was wanting to solve the world's problems and change the world and make a bunch of money and be rich and do all these different things.
Then you adjust priorities.
Yeah, and I was chasing what I realized, and my dad and I really had these. This is probably more information than our audience wants to know, but my dad and I had these very deep conversations around the period when he was about to pass away, when he was sick, and those conversations unlocked, like it released me. Like I always say, like it liberated me, because what I realized was like, oh, and I said this to him, like, well, shit, Dad, like, why didn't you tell me, like when I was 16 or 20, that you unequivocally, unconditionally loved me no matter what, and that I didn't have to prove myself to you? Because if you would have just told me that, maybe I wouldn't have spent the last 20 years essentially chasing the title.
Chasing your validation.
Right, 100%. What I realized is that most of 20 to 40, yes, there are lots of other variables involved, but like a big psychological chunk of it was I was just chasing my dad's love. Like I was just chasing validation with my father, who was the career worker, put your head down, focus, do the work. Work isn't supposed to make you happy or joyful or purposeful. It's just supposed to make you money and then go home and take care of your family and then just shut up and go back to work tomorrow, right? Like that. And then do that until you're tired and you're old and then you retire. And I was like, I always felt like a misfit in that realm. I wound up like you. I was good at it. I was successful. I did many great things. I did many successful things according to lots of people, like, right? And I earned those stripes like you did. And I earned the CEO title, and I learned what it meant to be a better CEO the fourth time that I was versus the first time that I was. Like you learned in your second time, like, oh, right?
Yeah.
But again, like we can continually reinvent. I'm in some ways reinventing myself again now, with this being my business, like this being my life,
and
right?
It's great.
Right. Thank you. But it also is great personally, because I wake up every day, and though I may be, as I joke sometimes, like cash poor right now because I'm in this mode, like I am also like richer in joy and purpose and daily energy than I've ever been. Right. Which then people can go like, oh, that's how you feel when you're coming through the screen on the podcast. Like I can feel your energy and your enthusiasm, Rob. Like, thank you. And I'm like, that's just because that's how I feel when I wake up. Like, although I've traded some stability and some predictability that comes with other ways to do it.
But it was a conscious decision.
Very intentional. And that's you. Like you are being very intentional now, which I think is, I wanted to have you on the show. Let's tell our guests a little bit. I like behind the scenes. I wanted to have you on the show at the time. This was many months ago that we started the process to try and book you to be on the show, because I wanted to talk about your leadership experiences in the industries that you worked on. But I also wanted to amplify your story because, excuse me, I'm very passionate and deeply aware of how important it is for Latinas, Mexicanas, in Estados Unidos, in Mexico, in Latin America, anywhere in the world, that we amplify more stories like yours, right? Because we know, you and I know, that there are younger women than you, and even older women than you, and then young girls that are listening, that are watching you, that are watching and listening to you on social media. And the chance to leave a positive impact with them so that they can, two things, believe that they can do this, like you had, that they can cross the ladder and get up the trajectory and get to the top, right? But now, what wound up happening with this episode was that by the time we got you booked, by the time we booked you for this particular conversation, you had made a series of decisions in your life that I didn't even know about until this morning, right? And now I'm even more excited that the instinct, my intuition.
It's not a coincidence. I told you.
No, it's not. It's 100% not.
And the timing that we're talking, we started talking in January. It's
right. And like, I mean, this is so like in so many ways, I'm getting excited. Like I'm proud of you because
thank you.
We're sharing two different versions of your story today, two parts of two chapters in a
and
long
both equally important and non-exclusive.
No, I always use the book analogy with myself in life and with others. Like you are a book. Like each of us is a book. Right. And so your book has like many, many chapters, maybe like another 100 chapters to write. Right. And so all we're talking about is two chapters, but the juxtaposition of these two chapters next to each other that a young Mexican woman can trust her instincts and her intuition and her gut and rise up the ladders to become a CEO twice in two very traditional male-dominated industries. And then that same woman can stop and hold back the tide of expectations and cultural norms and all that stuff that dominates the Mexican culture in particular, but dominates just society in general, right? Everywhere. Like, and push back and go like, no. I'm just as confidently going to step away from this as I was confident when I stepped into it. That's hugely important. Hugely important for people to hear.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at eSudo. You know, running any business, but especially a law firm, means balancing a lot. And technology, frankly, shouldn't be a headache. eSudo makes information technology and cybersecurity simple for law firms large or small. With over 20 years of experience, they specialize in everything from Microsoft 365 management to advanced cybersecurity solutions. They help you to stay ahead of threats, manage your data securely, and keep your tech running smoothly so that you can focus on what matters most, your clients. eSudo understands the legal industry's unique needs, offering tailored solutions to ensure that your firm is always in compliance and always protected. Are you ready to upgrade your firm's technology or get help with your questions? Visit esudo.com.
And I do want to add one last thing, that this is important to talk about, and I hope that if it makes at least one woman, Spanish-speaking or Latina or Mexican, feel accompanied, it's gonna, like, that's all I need. Because I do believe that our belief system and our belief system is constructed by where and why and how we are educated. And in Mexico, at least, I cannot talk about other Latin American countries, but in Mexico, it is made to make the women doubt about themselves. Like, all the time, it's about you are too much, you're talking too much, you're talking too loud, you're thinking too much. Why do you want to work that much? You should be having babies. Why do you want to make a lot of stuff? Leave that to your husband. Why do you want to have a lot of money? Like, you don't need to think about it because you're a woman. Even though it sounds very cliche, it is totally true. And it happens every day, all around, in some places more than others.
Sí.
And it is nadar contra corriente, swimming against the river. What's the analogy?
Yeah, like upstream. Yeah.
Yeah, swimming upstream.
Yeah. Going against the current.
Going against the current. Yeah, it's the correct translation. But it feels to many women that we are going still against the current, even though we are in a very globalized and informed.
In 2025, Oli, like, this is still the reality.
World, it is still very much true. So
yeah. And by the way, you said, and I respect that, like, we're not, Mexican culture is different than Chilean culture or Bolivian culture or Peruvian. But I will say this, as I sit here in Los Angeles, which is essentially Alta California, right? Like, I mean, the reality is, as Bismarck reminded me, we interviewed Bismarck Lepe, one of Mexico's goats, one of the icons of entrepreneurship in Mexico. I interviewed him yesterday for a future episode. They'll come out around the same time as Oli. And he said something yesterday. He's like, hey, don't forget, you're sitting in Los Angeles. He's like, you're sitting in the second largest city in Mexico. If we were all Mexico,
oh
he's
my
like,
God, that's
he's like, I'm not, he's like, I'm not talking like Spanish speakers, or he's like, literally, there are more Mexicans in Los Angeles than there are in any other city in Mexico after Mexico City. There are Los Angeles, just the Mexicans, is larger than Monterrey, is larger than Guadalajara, et cetera, et cetera. So in many ways, your story that you're sharing is going to resonate with all our Mexicanas that live and work here in Estados Unidos, both career women and as moms, as well as emprendedoras, right? Entrepreneurs, right? Because the cultural thing, there is no barrier, there's no boundary or border. There's no bullshit Trump border that says like, oh, cultural doesn't cover into, no, in the US, in the Southern California part of the US where Mexicans, culture is dominant, there are many women that will listen to this episode that will hear your story and be empowered here at home, like here in the US. So it's a powerful lesson. I have a personal question, and then we're going to finish and we're going to ask you kind of the closing question, which
I
is
have
a little
time
bit more.
and I love talking.
Yeah. So this is more just you've explained why, right? And you explained how you explained how you got to it, and then you explained how you went through the decision-making process, and you explained deeply personally why you made it. And we flirted with what's coming, right? What's the future? How do you feel? How are you feeling today?
Super vulnerable. I told you before we started, but
I'm curious. Are you tired? Are you No? Okay.
No, I'm uncomfortable because I am still not used to stopping.
Sí.
So yesterday I was talking to my husband. I want to start, we've been in months talking with Danny, and you know this. We
Sí.
want to create a podcast. And I was talking to him like, okay, like I have free time. Let me, and I was with the computer working. And he was like, okay, you've had a month off the role, but like we moved last week to a new house, new apartment. Yeah. I needed to make the transition of the role. So the first 2-3 weeks, I was still in a lot of conversations with clients and people. So he told me like, you really need to stop. Like, I see you, and yeah, I'm fully anxious. I'm not sleeping that well. But I told him like, but it's not the job. Like, now that I don't have the stress of the job, then why am I not feeling like energized? And I do believe that because I am in this transition, and it's really, really uncomfortable because there's no, like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do. And aside from all that, I have almost daily the reminder of, what do you do? When do you want kids?
Right.
And
all that.
And why? Yeah, it's like, stop asking me questions. So, but.
And it's uncomfortable to answer, I don't know.
Yeah. But let me tell you this. The first 2, 3, 4 times they asked me, I was like, oh, and then now that
got better.
I got better. Yeah, I got better. And now I am also capable to identify who are my allies, because not everybody, like a lot of people, haven't lived this. So you have 2 types of answers. You have the answer of, you go girl, you can do this because I was there and it's difficult. No? And then you have the other side of like, but why? You had a CEO role. You love the job. You're really good at it. And I'm like, and so I am good, but I am good with job or no job. I am a good person. I have a lot of skills. I am intelligent, whatever you want to add there, no? But it's given me like a scope, like a really big scope. I feel like when they tell you, when you hear the phrase like eyes wide open, I feel like vulnerable, like open-hearted, eyes wide open, really sensible. It's like I'm not sharing this still. That's why I'm going to share it next week. But I have had it like very, to me, and because I need first to feel at ease with all the changes, because it was all at once.
Yep.
But
That's
I am
awesome
happy.
Question.
Yeah.
I thank you for being so honest and vulnerable. I mean, you're just being yourself. I told you before we jumped on this morning as we were racing through oh my God, we're adjusting this on the fly.
Yeah. Because to give a context to all the people that are listening to us, I told him this like 1 hour before.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Like, hey, I need to tell you something. I quit it a month ago. We need to change everything.
Well, I'm like pretty good. And I'll tell you, total transparency here. about maybe a week and a half ago or so, or 2 weeks ago, I saw you post something on Instagram from that beautiful apartment that you're sitting in, like with your dogs, but you were like sitting on the floor with like a box of pizza or something, right? And in my head, I thought, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so they're moving, or she's moving, or
there's
changes are happening. And so although, yes, this morning, an hour before, was like, okay, wait a minute. Like, it wasn't like there, it also kind of kicked in for me, and I was like, okay, here's how we can adjust. But no, I also, the reason I brought that up is I did tell you beforehand, just as friends, again, that this was a safe space. Right? And
I know.
I got
That's
your back.
why I'm here.
Yeah, I got your back. And so I feel honored and humbled that you're trust me enough in our relationship that you could be as open as you are. Because
how do you say when you have like the like an article for a journal and then they give you primicia? That like you have the story firsthand.
Yes, the exclusive story, right?
The exclusive is what I wanted.
Yeah,
you have the exclusive.
But it's also, Ms. Mark and I had an exchange like this yesterday. Like, it's also just a beautiful, like, it doesn't matter that we are thousands of miles apart from each other and we haven't seen each other physically in person, because we are connected to each other, and we do use these tools, whether they be social media or podcasting or whatever it is, we do to stay not just like aware, like, oh, look at what she did, like, but stay connected. And so to me, this feels very natural. Like, although I would have loved for it to have been lunch sitting in Monterey, like in a long coffee, like this is also very natural.
But
so
soon we will do it
here. Soon it's coming. It's coming, because you're going to be a podcaster. So you're going to be calling me for all kinds of advice soon, you and Danny. Right. So that's awesome. All right. So let's finish up. This has been incredible, but let's finish up. I'd like to leave, and this is going to be like an ode to our where we first met at Tech de Monterrey, and all those young aspiring entrepreneurs. And frankly, here's an interesting twist, right? Is like the DNA culture of Tech de Monterrey kind of like, I don't want to say the word forces, but it kind of like embeds in all of you that when you finish, like, you have to go change the world. Like, you literally have to save your country and change the world and make $100 million and like, you have to do this, or somehow like you're not quite as successful as you could be. Right. So let's, with that in mind, let's leave like 2 tips, like 2 suggestions for young students who are studying entrepreneurship and leadership at Tech de Monterrey today, in today's world that you just described as a young woman. Like, what are 2 tips for how they should build their careers, or maybe even just how they should think about building their careers with all that you know, not just like, now this isn't the 10-year ago version of you.
Yeah.
This is the full version of you as a woman today.
Today.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let me give you the real about how to build your career when you're coming out of Tech de Monterrey.
The real is that you are barely starting when you graduate from Tech de Monterrey. Even if you worked before, when you enter the workforce, I would say enter with curiosity and intention. There's no right path, there's no right job, and most of the times because I did it as well, and I know a lot of people do, we give it so much weight on each decision. Like, where's going to be my first job? But then they didn't accept me. Then I go, and it's like, chill. Chill the F, because it doesn't matter. It won't make you or break you if you let it. The thing is, we let it. We give so much weight on all this. So with curiosity and intention. If you go with a mindset of curiosity, you experiment and then you see different. And I'm gonna like add there what you said about the portfolio. Think about what things I love doing. That's like one. And how do I wanna live my life? And then cross them.
That could be a new master's class at Tech de Monterrey right there, right? Like, how do we build our career in the context of it being part of our life, as opposed to the old model of your life is your career, like your life is your work or your startup. Like,
And
Very
it's scary,
powerful.
but I think it's very powerful because you don't give enough power to anyone, not to the company you're working in, not to your boss, not to an entity or an idea or an expectation. I am empowered and motivated by this life I want to have, what things I'm good doing, and then also very important, what am I willing to do to get this life? Because it's very easy, like when you graduate, to say, I want to be a billionaire. Of course, I don't doubt about you. You can do this. Okay. But what am I willing to do? For example, me, I am not willing to work unethically, to make plays that can affect people, to work in something that maybe I'm good at, but I don't like it, to be underpaid, to be working, for example, now that I have complete flexibility in my workspace, I never ever in my life will work for somebody that they give me a job 9 to 5 or 6 p.m. Like never. I am not willing to do that. So if you combine this curiosity and intention, you combine it with this mindset of, let me understand what am I good doing and how I want my life to be, you can make a great career.
You will find great opportunities because
Yes,
you'll find great people, and you'll spend less time wasting time and energy or years of your career with people organizations, or work that isn't aligned with your purpose, with your human purpose.
Yeah, because it's with the curiosity you experiment.
Yep.
And if you enter a job and you don't like it because you never know the truth until you're inside, get out. And
Right.
it's really scary to quit.
That's awesome. Right. I mean, this is like multiple episodes in a row.
We have a lot to talk about, but I can end the conversation with this.
I can't wait till I share this episode with Goalie, and Goalie gets to watch your episode, because
I hope so. I loved her episode.
Yeah,
and I want to know more about her and her experience.
She's an incredible woman. I mean, right? But that was the classic, like she said, right? I was like 2 months into the career of being a lawyer, and I realized, like, I don't want to do this. And then didn't make the change until 7 years later, right? I mean, so yeah, that's huge wisdom. You're the best. I'm sending you a huge virtual hug.
Yeah.
And I can't thank you enough. This was really awesome. I thank you for your vulnerability. Again, this episode will come out 3-4 weeks after you tell the world about your changes. But I am 100% certain that people who will, in your circles, in your life, in your companies, in your families, who will listen to and watch this episode, then will see. Your parents will look at it. You will proudly, like, they'll see the young woman that you have become, just like I'm feeling right now.
Thank you.
Which is all that any of us old people want for the young people in our lives, is to see you grow to that point of self-awareness and self-comfort that you can make these hard societal decisions and find the good in them and find how they empower you. And you've left such an empowering message for so many women today.
Thank you.
It's really cool. So we live in a social world. We live in a connected world. How can people find you or follow you or find the company or whatever, however you want to promote and connect now?
I'm active on Instagram, getting through the initial cringe of TikTok and LinkedIn.
Okay.
In the three, you can find me with @Oligi, like OLIG.
G. Yep.
Leal, Leal.
Awesome. It's the best. You're the best.
Thank you.
I'm lucky to have been a part of this conversation today.
Thank you for the safe space. Bye.
My pleasure. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. As always, we thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's show was recorded here in Los Angeles and produced by the incomparable Deanna Bernal in Mexico City. You know, we can only grow this show by you listening and sharing the show with friends. So please find, like, follow, subscribe, and share our audio-only show on Spotify, Apple, or via any other popular podcasting platforms, as well as find the video version of our show now available on our YouTube channel over at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And of course, you can follow along on our various social media platforms for fun and informative clips and content at Entrepreneurial Thinkers, wherever you can find us. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at I Am Rob Ryan on just about any social media platform. Gracias, thank you, and have an awesome day.